I'm Josh Light with PoliticIt.com here in New York with John Mangelli. He's an independent candidate running for Senate here. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing good. So, John, tell us about some of your goals, some of the things you want to accomplish.
Okay, well, first I want to thank you for taking the time out of your day and your career and everything else to, feel it was important enough to speak to me. So I do appreciate your time. I wanted to introduce myself. I'm a newcomer in this race. My name is John Mangelli. I grew up in New York on Long Island, and I've been born and raised, and I've been living in New York continuously throughout my 46 years. I am the son of a New York City firefighter. I am the youngest of 8 children. I'm Italian. I'm a God-fearing, church-going individual. I don't go to church as much as I should, but I do go to church. I believe in God. I don't believe that believing in God is a bad thing. I think that maybe we've taken away from that and try to separate people on those issues. But, believing in any God is good because it keeps you away from evil. But not to get into that. I ran on this platform. I have 4 things that I'd like to accomplish. But basically what happened was every election year, I get excited over the promises of what the politicians are saying. And then I say, okay, everything is going to be great. They're going to take care of the issues that they've explored and that they've touched, and everything is going to be terrific, or at least it'll get better. And for many, many, many years, it hasn't. It's just more of the same. So then what happens was the year goes by, I get mad, and I say, I should have done something. But this is the first year that I actually got my petition for U.S. Senator in on time. I didn't present it any other time, but I said, which position can I do the most good in? And I said a national position such as senator, congressman. And I decided to go for the Senate position for United States Senate for New York for a few different reasons. But one of the main things that I'm really interested in is the environment. When I was a little kid, I wanted to be a marine biologist. I grew up probably more than your generation, but I grew up with Mutual of Omaha, Jacques Cousteau, environmental programs such as that. So actually I wanted to do that. But my father had said, listen, if you want to change things, you have to be a lawyer. And once you're a lawyer, then you have to be a politician. Because the only real way to change anything is to change the laws or influence the people that are making the laws. And since I'm not rich and powerful, the only other way that I could change the laws is by running for office. So I went to the University of Maryland for undergraduate. I went to Thomas Cooley Law School, graduated from Thomas Cooley Law School. Prior to that, I traveled overseas. I lived in Japan and Korea and Thailand for a little while. For about a year, I spent overseas traveling around, working on various military bases. And I decided that this was a year that at least I could try to make a stand. And I wanted to keep my promises simple because I didn't want to make promises to people who, or promises that couldn't be kept. So first of all, one of the biggest problems that I have is, and what I'm finding by talking to other people, is that New Yorkers don't feel that the politicians are representing their interest. New Yorkers don't feel right now that the politicians are speaking for them. And that was my thing. Issues came up on social policy and whatever else that our politicians were making decisions and they would appear on the news and the law would come out, and I was like, who did they ask? These polls that are supposedly out there, these opinion polls and surveys, I don't know one person that's ever been asked that. I certainly have never been asked, and I'm a lawyer. Not that I make myself any better than anybody else, but if they're not asking the professional people who were out there interpreting the laws and prosecuting the laws and fighting for the laws, then who are they asking? They're not asking Joe the plumber, or they're not asking, who are they asking? So I felt that it was important for me to try to get out there to at least make one statement that if I'm elected as senator, before I made any decisions that were based upon social policy and programs out there, I'm going to ask New Yorkers as a whole, not special interest. For example, I've received probably 1,000 emails on Pentagon spending, just as a candidate. I've received several hundred emails on don't cut Medicare and support people who support the disabled. Those are great issues, but those are special interests. Right? So the silent majority out there really needs to be heard. And that's who I feel, amongst everybody else, needs to be heard. And I'll drop back a little bit. I do a lot of work in Brooklyn right here. And when Occupy Wall Street started, I wanted to go across the bridge and join the fight, right? Or join. And then I'm driving there and I said to myself, how can I take a day off from work? I have to go to work. If I go there, you're either going to get arrested or you're going to get in trouble. And I don't need to be arrested. I'm not looking for that. So I said the best way that I could do something is to run for office, to try to make a change on the same issues that these people are fighting for, but not on the level of protest where you're going to get arrested and spend a day in jail. I think that, okay, everybody's got their cause, but that's not my way to do it. My way to do it is to become the politician, to try to get the voice of everybody out there. And the way that I would do that is, say, for example, we're voting on a particular social issue. Put it on the internet, on my website, the vote comes out, majority wins, right? If 75% of New Yorkers say they're in favor of it, okay, regardless of my own personal opinion, I will vote according to what the majority opinion is. And I think that's the only true way to represent all of New Yorkers. Anything short of that, anything short of actually taking a quantifiable, identifiable vote, well, and I know it's not going to be a vote right in the Senate, but at least it will sway my vote. Right? If 10% say yes and 90% are saying no, you really can't go with the 10%, or they shouldn't. They shouldn't vote their own conscience. I know there was a local politician who said, well, if I vote my own conscience, then so be it. No, that's not the way that they're supposed to be. I want to be the public servant. I want to work for the public. My main agenda is, as a lawyer practicing in New York for 16 years, what I do with my clients is I give them the information. I research the law, I research the facts, I look into it, I do my investigative research, and then I give them the information necessary for them to make an educated decision. That's what our politicians should do. The problem with the politicians right now, at least as a constituent, and that's why I ran, I only want for other people what I wanted for myself. I want an avenue of truth that I can rely upon. I want to be able to go to my senator's website and know that I'm reading an unbiased opinion as to what the facts are. All right, so that was the first thing, vote. I think we need to vote on the issues, right? And that's simple. Who wouldn't want that? Who can actually fight me on that position? That, okay, we want to, and I've had some resistance. Well, anyway, from the voting on the issues, I think we need to prosecute fraud. Right? We have white-collar criminals out there that are embezzling, stealing millions, if not billions, of dollars from hard-working individuals, their retirement accounts and so forth. I think we should prosecute the white-collar criminals the same way we prosecute hard criminals. I think they should do the same time in the same location. None of this Fed, whatever they call it, right? Where they go to the federal jails and they get to play tennis and everything else. One of the issues why I decided to prosecute on that is, I don't know if you heard, there was and forgive me if I get all the facts not correct. There was a school chancellor from a particular school district on Long Island. And while he was in his position, he embezzled, say, $6 or $7 million. Got caught with 6 or 7, maybe it was 2 or 3, whatever it was. But he got caught embezzling millions of dollars. So if he got caught with some, they put some away. Like, they didn't get him with everything, right? He goes to jail for 2 years, pays a small restitution, comes out, and is able to keep his pension. To me, that's absolutely wrong. So whatever law needs to be changed, and forgive me if I don't have the 2 years versus, the dollar. But the point is that they committed a crime in their position of trust. They should not be able to keep the pension that's based upon their position of trust. That should be a law that they shouldn't be able to keep that, right? We prosecute the fraud. We prosecute the white-collar criminals. We create jobs in law enforcement, whether it be IRS or enforcement. We need to prosecute the fraud that's going on in Medicare and Medicaid. If we just get back the millions, if not billions, of dollars that are stolen from the United States taxpayers every year, then that would offset what everybody's fighting over. If we had an extra $60 billion a year, how many people would that pay for? So we wouldn't have to, I don't hear anybody else talking about that. They're talking about cutting this, cutting that, doing this, doing that, but nobody's talking about the criminals. So let's vote on the issues. Let's prosecute the criminals, creating jobs, prosecuting the criminals. Let's stop the criminal enterprise. From what I understand, when I saw it on the news, Medicare and Medicaid has a certain amount of days in order to pay a claim. And that was the major problem, was they didn't have enough time between getting the claim and paying the claim to determine the legality of the claim. They weren't able to investigate whether or not it was a truthful claim or not. And they just pay it. So they pay it, and then by the time they catch up to it, which is 3 years later, they realize they were ripped off $30 million and the guy's back in whatever country he came from. So that needs to be changed. It's common sense solutions to issues that are being blown out of proportion. Nobody's saying get rid of Medicaid, but let's prosecute the fraud. Let's recoup some of the expenses. Let's slow down on the payment of the claims in order for us to determine the legality of those claims. From there, I'm a big environmentalist. Biggest thing that I have is I've contacted probably every military organization out there, a lot of different organizations that I contacted, and I said, I want to help. Whatever I can do, we need to take care of our veterans. There are a lot of important issues out there, but again, common sense solutions to issues that are being presented to our New Yorkers and Americans as a whole. If we send young men and women, old men and women, whoever it is, overseas or to fight our battles, we have to take care of them. They're our responsibility. We put them in harm's way. We now have to take care of them. They should not be going overseas worrying about money issues. They should not be going overseas worrying about foreclosure issues and whether or not the bank is going to take their home while they're away and things of that nature. They need to be, when they come home, they're taken care of. God forbid they're wounded. They need to know that we stand behind them. Forget the policies of whether or not we were supposed to go to war or what they were doing was justified or not. That's not of issue. What's of issue is we all need to come together as Americans and take care of these wounded men and women who serve their country. And there's really nothing more important than that. We go from that, if we go into the environment, right? There's another. So yes, that's key. One of the social issues is taking care of our military, especially the wounded warrior programs and things of that nature. I think what's really important on a lot of these non-for-profit organizations is we need to cut the fraud on that also. I myself don't want to contribute to a charity because most of the time they're fraudulent. You give them $1, 99 cents is going to their pocket. I don't have $1 to give to them. I have money to give to charity, for charities that I believe that actually can help. What I do is I do a lot of pro bono work. So if somebody can't afford my legal services, I'll give them free legal advice or I'll cut them a break. Any military person that comes to me, I usually don't charge them. Haven't had a lot of them. I wish I would voice my proposal that I could help more of them. As many people as want my help, I will help. But we need to allow them the peace of mind knowing that we've got their back when they're protecting our interest wherever they may be. If we move on from that, we have environmental issues that really need to be taken care of. It's a simple concept that trees create oxygen. We need oxygen to survive. But yet we just keep cutting down all of the trees. We're cutting down remote locations of rainforests that we haven't even explored, that there's animals and species that have never even been discovered yet. Why are we doing that? Pure greed, and I'm against that. We should not create jobs that are based upon depleting our natural resources. We should create sustainable jobs. For example, I'm a big fan of the solar. However, if you're going to have solar and the batteries are going to have to be developed from the remote areas of the Congo, then we need to find some other way, right? I know there's gas and there's oil. I'm not in favor of fracking, right? If we go upstate and the people upstate want to earn some money by selling their mineral rights, my suggestion to them would be is let us buy your mineral rights. Let the New Yorkers pay you what these people, these companies are willing to pay you for your mineral rights. Let's have a tax on that if they want to tax us on something. Let's tax for good. Let's tax for saving the environment, not depleting the environment. Fracking is an absolutely horrible, horrible concept. They don't even know what to do with the toxic wastewater and all of the toxic chemicals that are created from fracking. So why do it? It's absolutely foreseeable that there is going to be a disaster from fracking. And we have no experience handling that disaster. We have years of experience handling disasters with oil. We've been through that, right? We've been through the disasters with the coal mines, but we've never been through a disaster with the fracking. I don't want to be New Yorkers right here in this great state of New York and New York City, for example, that's going to lose millions of gallons of water that directly feeds the New York City drinking water. I might not be the smartest guy in the world, but I'm not stupid. That to me is a decision based upon greed, probably not so great relationships between politicians and companies. I could understand people wanting to earn a living and provide for their family, but I would propose, let us buy your mineral rights so that they're never tapped into. Natural gas, if it can be harvested, terrific, especially safe, terrific. I'm not in favor of the Alaskan pipeline, but we don't have much alternatives. I mean, what are the choices? We don't want coal because coal destroys the forest and cuts off the tops of the mountains. I understand that. I'm against it, but what else are we going to do? Right? I'm not in favor of the oil, but what else are we going to do? It's kind of the less of two evils, the coal and the oil, because we already have the years of experience in that, right? What I find is that it seems that most of the people out there suggesting we need to create jobs, they're all talking about destroying the environment in the process, right? Let's create drilling jobs. So who's going to benefit from that? The drilling companies are going to make their billions, right? The drillers themselves are going to make a decent salary, and then the homeowners and the people who own the land are going to make the money. But reality of it, where's everybody else? Okay, so it's going to be a trickle-down effect that they're going to go into the diners and the restaurants and they're going to be buying cars. I don't necessarily buy that, right? I would rather see logging companies be converted to taking the vines off the trees, right? I would rather see fishing industries converted to hydropower. Right? Hydropower is a renewable, sustainable source of energy. It doesn't hurt anything. The waves go up, it creates energy. They go down, they go up, they go down, they go, right? Constant, right? And again, I don't know all of the facts about it, but it seems like we don't want to put the fishermen out of business, but they have the boats, they have the experience with water. Maybe we can convert from, for the new generations. Like when I see those shows, The Greatest Catch, or whatever, I mean, it just seems like such greed. And, over harvesting of, these crabs. And you see the people cutting down the trees. I don't get it. We need to save. We need to conserve. Because the reality of it is, despite everything else that's going on in this world, war, famine, healthcare, it doesn't make a difference if 50 or 60 years from now we don't have a planet to come back to. What is the environmental plan? What is the 200-year plan? What's the 100-year plan? Now, I've heard, stories, okay, well, this tax program and that tax program, but who's talking about the environment? Let me be the environmental candidate. Let them come to me and let me propose the legislation and everything else that's going on. By doing that, we create jobs, we create sustainable jobs that are good for everybody, and by having the people vote on the issues, it takes the corruption and fraud out of the electoral process. It gets rid of special interests, and it actually makes the politician directly accountable for his vote because there's an ascertainable, quantifiable vote there that he's supposed to be voting in favor of. Now, I'm saying I'm going to vote in favor of what the majority says. If people don't do that, that's a different story, but people have to get involved. My finding is that people don't get involved with politics because they feel that they don't have a say. I'm here to tell them different. You can have a say with me, and I think that's the most important thing that I can say is, regardless of my own personal opinions on anything, I'm going to give you the right to vote to me directly. And I'm going to take your vote to the hill, and I'm going to fight for you. The biggest issue that I'm facing, social issue that I'm facing right now, is foreclosures. There's everything else going on, but millions of people throughout the state of New York are losing their homes. It's a very simple solution. I've been fighting foreclosures on behalf of homeowners for 16 years. Sometimes it's free, sometimes it's not free, right? In any event, right now, what's going on with homeowners, so you know, is if they're in foreclosure, they got to go through this long, tedious process of presenting their financial records to the bank in order to qualify for some sort of financial aid, right? They go through this process. Meanwhile, the $3,000 a month that they're not paying is adding up. The taxes are accruing. The homeowner's insurance, instead of it being $1,200 a year, is now like $5,000. The house goes into disrepair. It depletes the whole community, right? So what I find is, regardless of what these people do, they're either getting the modification or they're not. Now, the alternative to a modification is either a short sale, foreclosure, or a deed in lieu. Now, if the bank isn't going to accept the paperwork for a modification, then they should accept a short sale. But the same process goes forward with the short sale. Short sale is when the bank is owed more money than the property is worth. Somebody will come in most of the time like an investor and say, well, I'll give you 50 cents on the dollar. You owe $400, the house is worth $250, I'll give you $200 just for the hassle. The banks aren't accepting it. Okay, banks have their own financial policy, fine. Then take the deed. If you think you can get more money, Mr. Bank, for the house, then take the deed. Here you go, here's the deed. Let me move on with my life. Don't keep it over my head as to whether, because they can't move on. And then the next thing is foreclosure. The banks aren't even foreclosing. So they don't accept the modification, they don't accept the short sale, they don't take the deed, but they're not foreclosing. So everything is kept in limbo. It's got to be a process. 6-7 months, banks got to make a decision. One of the four, done deal, that's it. And my suggestion would be, as we get to the homeowners, we say, how much do you think you can afford? You can afford $1,300 instead of $3,000? Fine. We paid for it anyway. Politicians didn't pay for it. The government didn't pay for it. The taxpayer paid for it, right? So let's give them the opportunity to pay their $1,300 a month. They stay in their house, and we'll see what happens.
John, how's your campaign going?
Campaign is doing better than I originally planned. As I was trying to get across, is I'm relatively new in this. And I didn't get involved in this because I have my own agenda. I got involved in this and I decided to run because I want people to have a say the same way I want to have a say. I want to have a say in what's going on. Whether it's my local mayor before he raises the taxes, right, before the government raises their taxes, before the senator votes in favor of giving Libya or Egypt $3 billion in monetary aid, there should be some sort of consensus or a decision from New Yorkers as a whole. So I got involved with that because I was frustrated with the current politicians that are in office, that they don't speak for me, they don't represent my interest, at least since I've been voting, and I'm 46 from 18, right, do the math. So I threw my hat in the ring just to see if I could make the ballot, just to see if there were like-minded people. So what happens is, so you know, just a little election law for you. If you're running for a national position like senator, you have to get 15,000 signatures. But it's not 15,000 signatures. It's 15,000 signatures, no more than 3,500. No more than 3,500 from any particular congressional district, and at least 100 from at least half the congressional districts, right? So that's a huge task. I set out, and I was able to accomplish that. So I had about 27,000 signatures, and I did it on a shoestring budget. I don't have a lot of money. I use in my savings. I had volunteers. I had 2 interns working for me during the summer. I had a lot of other volunteers helping me out. We went to a lot of different communities throughout the state of New York, and we were able to accomplish getting 27,000 signatures. So there are at least 27,000 people that were willing to hear me out, that at least do that. Now, the campaign needs, I'm not asking people for money. Actually, this Sunday is the first fundraiser that I'm having. I don't want people's money, because when charities ask me for money, I don't want to give them my money. Like Greenpeace and these other organizations, I agree with what they're doing, but I'm not giving them my money. I want to give them my time. I contacted a lot of organizations. Look, I'm a lawyer. Let me donate my time. I'll do whatever legal work you want from me. I can give you 100 hours a year. Instead of me giving you 10 grand, let me do 100 hours worth of legal work for you. And that's the way I feel about my campaign, is donate your time, not necessarily your money. If you don't have the time and you have some money, great. I have to put up some print ads and some media ads and some radio ads, and it's expensive to get tech guys out there to try to work on the internet. You know, I'm good on the emails. Facebook, okay. You know, I don't do the LinkedIn or the Twitter. I tried, but I can't get enough words in there, and I usually have a lot more to say. But I really do appreciate organizations such as yourself that are actually, you know, getting out there and getting to the small guy to try to get the news out there. But the campaign, again, I've surpassed my expectations this year by getting on the ballot. I didn't expect to get on the ballot. I'm ecstatic that there are people that are like-minded and that are willing to back me. We just need more of their support, because as far-fetched as it is, everybody said, well, why don't you run for assemblyman? Or why didn't you go for a state? Why don't you do that? You know why? Because the decisions that need to be made to do the most good right now are on the national level. The federal government is encroaching upon states' rights. The federal government is making decisions for states without the states having authority to do anything about it. And our national senators right now are never asking anybody. They're just doing what they feel they need to do for our betterment. And I don't agree with that, because what they feel is better for me, I don't feel is better for me. And they should ask me. They represent me. Me, I represent you. I want to be the public servant. I want to do the public's good. I don't have my own agenda, except for setting forth really simple platform of vote on the issues, prosecute the fraud, create green, sustainable jobs without having the toll on the environment during the process of that. And the fourth one was vote, fraud, issue. What was it? Hold that one, all right? We got to come back to that. Jobs, fraud, environment, procedure, and policy. Vote on the issues, environment, jobs, and the fraud. So I think I tackled. Okay, so Can we cut that last one?
Yeah, that's fine. John, where can people go to learn more about you?
Okay, JohnMangelliForSenate.com. John Mangelli for Senate. I'm a New York native. I'm going to try to get out across the state of New York over the next 4 weeks. I doubt that I'll be able to make that. That would require additional sum of money. But if I can convince my wife to go on a road trip, then I'm going to do it. I'm married for 13 years. I have a beautiful wife. I have 3 lovely girls that keep me busy all the time. And another point that if I can, I just wanted to make was, it took me a long time to try to get back into the public eye because I was raising a family. And the reason why I can relate so much with the trials and tribulations that New Yorkers are facing right now is because I went through it. It's only within the last 2 years that I've basically cut all of my expenses, most importantly, my housing expense. Right? I had to cut the housing expense. It's just real estate taxes are just out of control. So again, simple solutions. How do we fix the economy? How do we fix the economy? For example, we want to increase construction trade, right? I know that I can afford a extension on my house, right? If it's $10,000 to put an extension, I want to put a sunroom in, right? I know I can afford that. What I can't afford and what I don't want to deal with, whether right or wrong, I don't want to deal with this, the village and the county coming in and inspecting. I don't want to deal with having to pay $5,000 for an architect. I don't want to pay another $1,500 a year in my real estate taxes. And that's the truth, is it's not all of the rest of that. Now, if we can get rid of the increase in real estate taxes for an improvement on a house that I already own, that would increase the construction trade 100% because people would do it. People would build new rooms. People would put a new roof on. People would raise their houses. So that would increase and make jobs within the construction trade. If we slow down on everything else, that would be good. We want to save gas, right? How about everybody just slows down? Slow it down. I was driving the other day and I wanted to send a Facebook or a tweet or something like that, that it's okay for bus drivers to go slow. It really is. Like a bus driver who's doing like 45 miles an hour down my block, it's okay to go slow as a bus driver. Nobody's going to ride you and push you to go faster. But, the reality of all of this is right behind us, we have where the Twin Towers used to stand. And I'm not harping on that, but we need to protect our national security. So first and foremost, my biggest thing is Americans first. America has to come first. We need to take care of Americans before we take care of foreign countries. Now, I understand a lot of the military aid and the aid that's going overseas may be for military. Okay, great. If it's going to protect our national security, okay, I'm in favor of that. But I'm not in favor of sending billions and billions of dollars overseas when it's foreseeable that they're going to use that money or take that money and steal it, but it's apparent for what has just happened that was foreseeable. I've been saying it for weeks on Facebook. I've been sending emails that it's foreseeable that they're going to use this against us. Are we crazy? Are we stupid that we're sending billions of dollars overseas on borrowed money from China when we can't take care of our own social programs? We have homeless here right in New York. We have people who don't have food right here in New York. We have a lot of different social programs out there that we need to take care of, that we're not, because we're cutting all of our funding for these other programs, but yet we're not cutting our funding for overseas. So as bad as that may sound, Americans first. Let's take care of our national borders. New Yorkers, as a New York senator, my goal would be to unite New Yorkers in a common theme that they have a say in what's going on in their government through me. And that's the best promise I think that anybody can make. So that separates me from anybody else that's out there. I haven't heard that from one person. Everybody out there that's campaigning, they have these terrific plans. The reality of it is 5 or 6 hours a day I'm practicing law, trying to pay my bills and support my family. The other 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 that I can spend lobbying and campaigning for what I'm trying to get across, I try to do that. But unless I'm in office, a key point that the news, when I was getting back to before, we have biased news. So depending upon what newspaper you read, that's where you're going to go. Like I read Newsday. When I read Newsday, I'm flawed by what I'm reading. And a common sense answer to this, common sense answer to that. But the reality of it is we need to be able to go to our senators for the truth, right? Unbiased truth. And that's what I want to be. I don't have all of the facts right now because I'm just a commoner. But as senator, I'm going to be privy to confidential and privileged information that I'm not going to expose it, anything that's going to hurt us. But yet I could give you the facts and let you make a decision and then vote on that decision. That's key. We can't go to one specific source and know that that's going to be the truth, that we know what we can rely upon. And the reality of it is no matter what you say, there's going to be people for it and against it. That's great. That's what America is based upon. But yet we need to have the feeling, at least the belief, that our politician is voting according to what we want and not their own interest, and not who they're having in their meeting and who's donating money to their campaign and putting political pressure on them. Because when that happens, actually, I think that's the presidential helicopter landing right over there. Could you believe that? Anyway, those are my beliefs, and I believe. You can't get better footage than that, huh?
That's pretty sweet.
That is the presidential helicopter that just landed over there, because I know Obama's in town, right? And so is the United Nations.
Yeah. Wow, cool.
So that was just, I think that was a irony that would go by at the same time, so that you guys should support me because the helicopter and everything else. But it's important for us all to be on the same page. We have people that are for and against certain things, but we need to vote on the issues. We need to prosecute fraud. We need to create sustainable jobs, and we need to protect our environment. I think I can accomplish all of those. I really do. I don't want to make false promises. If you start getting into the tax code and this and that, the reality of it is I don't know, because I've only read what I know, or I only know what I read in the papers.
Well, John, thanks for meeting with us today.
Oh, yeah, thank you. I appreciate it if you can help getting the word out, anything to support. Oh, and you asked me what it is that separates me from my other candidates, and I just want to strictly suggest that I am the only, as far as I know, the only independent candidate that's on the ballot right now. Truly independent. And I wanted to tell you about the election process. Since I made the ballot, the Board of Elections had mandated that I declare a party. I don't want to declare a party. I want to go down on the ballot as an independent candidate, but it's against election law, so I can't. So I had to declare Common Sense Party. I'm not affiliated with anybody else except for myself. I'm not beholden to any particular set of values other than the value that New Yorkers should speak as a whole, and we should vote on the issues as a state, and that I should carry their vote after giving them the information necessary to make an educated decision. So John Mangelli, independent candidate, Common Sense Party, and I appreciate efforts of yourself with organizations like yourselves that are getting out there and spreading the word.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.